Well, thank you everybody for coming to this session this afternoon, so for this 45 minutes, and I realise that everybody's busy and obviously there was something about this that has interested you to want to come today. So I'm grateful that Bob Cousins asked me to present this session because on instructional leadership. So my name is Vivian Scott and I work at the Centre for Training Excellence, which is part of the Central Institute of Technology. For many years at Central we've been developing the vet professional internally, but also in Queensland and throughout this state as well. And so about 2 years ago we thought we'd formalise that into one centre called the Centre for Training Excellence. So that's where I'm working from. And we run a program there called Instructional Leadership. And Bob was very interested in that and asked me to do the session on this today. So thanks for coming. What we hope to look at in this time is, first of all, what is instructional leadership? Why is it important? How can RTOs currently utilise instructional leadership? So I just wondered why people were here, because it sounds like people are looking at it for their own personal view, but it's also interesting to look at from the senior management point of view from an RTO about how they can actually capitalise on it, which is the big focus that Central's got at the moment. And then use Central as a bit of a case study to show, what we're doing in that space and how the program's evolved over time. And the reason that Central are doing it is to enhance quality for industry engagement and embedding the values into what we do. Okay, have a little look at this quote. What do you think about that? Would you agree with that? There's so much around leadership. So I thought we'd just use this little quote to focus our attention for the next 40 minutes now. Is everyone happy with that? And that was one from, the 1800s. He was a president for a very short time in America, for those that don't know. But that sort of captured me, because I know for me that people who have, inspired me to dream more, to learn more, to do more and become more. So they're the people that I've sort of seen as leaders, and if I can do that for others, then I think I'm doing an alright job as a leader myself. Okay, so I don't have to tell anybody in the room about some of these challenges. So I think at this time, more than any other time, we really need to rely on our leaders more than ever before, because at the moment everything is so complex, it's constantly changing, and this is for people in private RTOs and certainly people in the government sector with all of the funding cuts and everything else. It's very interesting times in which we live, and so we really need to rely on leaders more and develop our own leadership skills to help others navigate through all of these changes as well. So what I want you to do, the best way to think about this is, if you want to increase your own leadership skills, is to think of a time when you were inspired by a leader to dream more, learn more, do more and become more. Have a think about that, and then maybe share it with somebody else at your table. A couple of different ways of looking at it here. Some people have put, people that might not necessarily have a personal relationship like Mother Teresa, but somebody who's very inspiring because of the work that they do, right down to people who have inspired us personally because they've accepted who we are and given us the support to grow and do things and believed in us. And I know for me personally, that's what I've had both from that way, and I think we probably have as well. So the next thing that I'm going to ask you to do now is we're going to look at this placemat activity. And we did just think about somebody who's inspired us, but now what I want you to do, and we've mentioned a couple of these things, but I want you to focus a bit more about this. What were the attributes of that person? So a minute ago we talked about why we were inspired, but now we're going to think about that person. So what are the attributes about that person? What were the behaviours that they demonstrated that then led us to be inspired and to do our best, to bring out the best in us? So with this placemat activity, you get a couple of minutes on your own part of the paper to write down your own thoughts, and then I'm going to get you to share it with the other people at your table. So once you've had a chance to write down on your own part of the placemat, what I want you to do is go around your table and just share with the people at your table what you've got on yours, and then I'm going to get you to the third part. But just for now, just share with the people at your table around the circle what you've got. So once you've had a chance, I know we've got some tables with this 2 and some with 4. Once you've shared what you've got, thank the person for what they've said. Then I want you to write in the middle, I want you to write the main points from your table. Something you both agree on, or even one person said, but it was a key point. So we've got, from all around the state and in this room, we've got some really good ideas about how these leaders are. Why do you think I asked you to do that? That's it. So you've set yourself, so the answer was to know what we should be like as leaders. That was it. That's why I got you to do this activity. So the people in this room and in this state have actually set the bar really high about your expectation of leaders. So what you're really telling me is this is what, if you're aiming to be leaders, that these are the attributes that you're going to be aiming for. Now, it'd be good to do a values line now to sort of get people to line up, but we probably won't. You could think about that and go, you know, are you where you have set your bar, or are you there, or where are you on that continuum? So that's a good idea for you guys to think about now. If that's what you see, the attributes of leaders, how far away are you from that now? Just another little couple of things I want to explain now about the 2 activities that you guys have already done. So 2 of the activities that you've done are in our program. And the first one was the think, pair, share. And what that did is create safety and accountability. Because I got you to think first, then I got you to share with your partner, and then I asked you to share it with the rest of the group. And so what that did, you had some safety because you had time to think, but you were also accountable because you knew you had to do something. So these are there's some simple things about engaging learners, that whatever activities you do, think about those 2 attributes, that they've got some safety around them and some accountability. And it's again why we use a placemat. You had safety again, you got to write your own ideas first, then you got to share them. I even brought in some social skills because I asked you to thank the people at your table. So I was bringing in some social skills as well, and then you got to share. And of course what you came up with was much better than if I'd have just given you a list. You created that yourselves rather than me giving you a list. And you've set the bar much higher than I probably would have set it if I was just giving you some leadership. So you've inspired yourself a bit more. Does that make sense to people? Does anyone want to clarify any of that so far before we move on? So we've sort of set the scene. Anyone, any questions from online?
No, we just had another point that they also wanted to add active learning in there as well.
Yes, okay. All right, that's for the leaders. Yeah, great. Okay, excellent. All right, so we know now that what we're looking for in our leaders. There's another little activity I want you to do. Now, I'm not quite sure, Deb, whether they've got 2 pieces of paper at the table or just 1. They have got 2, good, yeah. Another activity is called a graffiti wall. And a graffiti is great because it gives people who might not necessarily be wanting to write, or they might not be confident in their spelling, and I'm not saying this is you, but I'm modelling what you could do with your students, that you've got the opportunity to draw a picture or to write something. This is called a graffiti activity. And the question is, do these leaders have to have some expertise or mastery in their field? So if you think they do, maybe you could draw for you and whatever your areas are, draw some pictures, write some words about that expertise that they might have, or you might go, I don't think they do need to have any expertise in their field, but for a leader, it's something else. So I'm interested in your ideas, so grab a pen. If you've got colours, use colours. If not, just use your whatever you've got and draw pictures or write about, do they need to have mastery? And if so, what does it look like? Talk. Do you want to explain your drawing?
So, well, the drawing, I've actually taken from something I saw on LinkedIn the other day, and it was 2 drawings, and it was making the point that leadership is established by putting some in the front and helping at the front. The other picture they had a man at the back with a whip, and that was the boss. So the different types of leadership, management leadership, where you're basically driving people to do things, or leadership where you're putting from the front and bringing everyone with you.
Excellent. Okay, and if they're open-minded and good listeners, empathetic, they can be good leaders. Yeah, excellent. And what is that representing to you?
Well, I was saying, the people that have led or inspired me are happy.
Yeah.
They believe in themselves, they're happy with life. Not many grumpy people can inspire me to do much better.
A leader doesn't necessarily have to have the knowledge to start with, but sometimes a person that is going into an industry as a leader that doesn't have any industry knowledge may come in with a fresh perspective, fresh pair of eyes, and is able to communicate with the followers and actually learn off them and be inspired by them to then obviously gain that knowledge.
Very interesting point, yeah.
Walking in someone else's shoes to get that.
Yeah.
And then we just said that it was also about ongoing learning, so learning doesn't stop.
Yes.
It's also making sure that we're also industry current with what we do.
Excellent. And someone online before said that was what they thought, that ability to keep learning was important, so that ties into that as well. And this table, and then we're going to go and have a look at the screen to have a look at what the people online have come up with.
We've got the leader in the centre, and then we've sort of got the organisation, and all of that is operating within community. We thought that was really important. The life-work balance, we like leaders who are aware of that. This notion of being linked in, fostering networks, we think is really important in the 21st century leadership. Having compassion and understanding for people's situations, absolutely critical. Also, the underpinning knowledge of the product's processes to be able to lead effectively. We thought that was indeed important. What else? 24/7 availability. That one's an interesting one. I'm not sure. Further conversations. Obviously, being a good communicator, even a better listener.
The reason I just wanted to give you a little practice at this activity is because it's a good one to use with your students who sometimes do prefer to draw than to write. So and it's about when is a good time to use these things. So it's another little one for you to have a look at. And all of these activities we use in our leadership program. The next thing to look at here, and if we had more time, I would have put a fishbone on everybody's table and got you to do this as a group, but we don't have time, and I'm not quite sure how well you can see that, so I might just talk to it here. This is a fishbone diagram that you can use to analyse situations and see what contributes. So at the head of the fish, we've got competitive advantage, and this goes to that question for RTOs. If they're really utilising academic leadership in their RTO, is it giving them a competitive advantage, and if so, how? And each part of this fishbone has got a little area to say how it would. So what I want you to have a think about is, if you wanted to get some competitive advantage in your RTO, how could you leverage off your instructional leaders to help? The first box is enhance quality. The next box is to engage industry. The next box is to embed your values. We've also got to embrace change. We looked at that current environment that we're looking in, that very complex environment in the vet sector that's constantly changing. So how are our leaders going to help with that process of change? The one that we all love so much is the maintaining compliance. How can you leverage off your instructional leaders to help your organisation maintaining compliance? And then there was just another. So without taking the time to do a fishbone, what I want you to do is just have a think now at your tables how you might use your instructional leaders in your organisation to help with some of those things, which would then give your organisation a competitive advantage. Just have a think of some of those little areas and how your organisation might do them. Okay, I might just take some call-outs on each one of the boxes. Has anybody had a chance to think about the embedding values, for example? Has anyone thought about that one? How you'd use your instructional leaders to help embed your values? So then is your idea that we've got them, or is there something else that your leaders could do, your instructional leaders can do, that will help get them lived more? So what's the specific role, do you think, of the instructional leader? Yeah, so helping explain that to other people in the organisation? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Anything else about the values that the leader can do? Live them, yeah, like model them, yeah, yeah. But I think that's the key one, and I think people here have got it, that it's about making it sure, making it clear, but also role modelling it and living those values themselves, which isn't always easy to do under times of stress and change, but I think that's the important bit there. What about enhancing quality? Now notice here that I've actually got enhancing quality one place and maintaining compliance the other. Now we know in the real world they're the same thing, but I've stripped them out here because some people don't necessarily see them as the same thing. So if we look about quality, I did hear some conversation again at this table about what people do, what leaders do to help with the teaching quality. So there's research from all over the world that shows that it's got a really huge impact, that peer-led, people going into each other's classroom, giving them feedback, and if you're linking it to the evaluation data, then you're actually really targeting that to the areas that are needed. So there's some very sophisticated ways of tapping into the leaders, the academic leaders, instructional leaders. Yeah, yeah. And that's certainly a part of the program that we've done, so that's a key part of it. So I was glad that someone's come up with that, because all the research backs that's a big way of doing it. So what else have people got? 90% of ordinary PD stays in the training room. Only 10% of it gets transferred across to practice, which is why any instructional leadership model you've got or any PD you've got has to do something. And what you talked about is one way of getting it out of the training room into the classroom, because you're really doing it and getting the peer observation. So that's great. I've been given the 5 minutes, so I'm just going to give you a very, very quick overview of what we've done with Central. And we've also done this with Queensland and the Department of Training in Queensland, and work with a group of their leaders as well on this. So it started up, so our current instructional leadership program did come from the work of the famed Barry Bennett, who was mentioned earlier, with Instructional Intelligence. And in 2007, I developed a masterclass of Instructional Intelligence for initially Central lecturers. That's been opened up. We've had people from other organisations join that, and we also ran the same model in Queensland. That's evolved over the last 8 years to this new program called the Masterclass of Instructional Intelligence. I know this is small, but I'm just going to bear with me and we'll get through it quickly. What it does is it looks at learning theories, so people have to have an understanding of learning theories, so that can be the lens to have a look at any of the strategies and tactics that they come across. It has to have good instructional design principles. A lot of people think about instructional design when they're doing online learning, but they don't think about it for your classroom. You've got to have instructional design for your lesson plans or resources or anything that you're doing. Then a range of strategies and skills, and some of those I've modelled today with your think, pair, share, the graffiti, the placemat, and the collaborative skills, which are the core skills for work. So they're all incorporated into that program, as well as some of the new emerging facilitation models such as open space technology, World Cafe, appreciative inquiry. We also have nonviolent communication, which is really just emotional intelligence. It's giving people the skills, because you all said there that they needed to give you empathy, they needed to care about you, they needed to understand you. They get that from this program, this part of the program. And we also have, thanks to Deb, who's taken it over since I've left this program, really bringing in the wise and sophisticated integration of technology into the pedagogy, which is why I wanted to model today with a vet how you could still use some of these strategies and tactics with people that aren't necessarily in the classroom with you. We've also got our II, or now Instructional Leadership alumni, which then model what they're doing and they come and share it with other people. We have differentiated instruction and 21st century learning. We had Mark Miller come over for the last 2 years as our teacher in residence. And we've built on the work of Spencer Johnson and others to really look at the change management and how people navigate all of the change that's happening in our sector. And we also do the peer conferencing, where we have people come into which they're all trained. We've got a lot of people that are trained in this now that can come in and give the non-evaluative feedback and help people grow in a non-threatening way. So that's it in a very quick nutshell, because I know that we're finishing up. So let me just leave you with this thought. Has this inspired you to maybe think what you might be able to do in your ITL? And what can you take away from this today in your organisation? And I've got the website there from CTE, so if you want to, and I've got some cards if people want to collect cards. If you do want to find out more about our program or interested in anything that we can share with you, we're happy to do that. So thank you for your time today.
Authorised by the Government of Western Australia, Perth.